Welcome back to the deep dive. Put on your virtual safety goggles, because today we are strapping on our troubleshooting helmets.
We are diving straight into the chaos of a major video game launch.
Yeah, the chaotic, pixel-strewn trenches. We're looking at the immediate aftermath of Anno 117 Pax Romana, which just hit players' hard drives on November 13th, 2025.
And as anyone who plays these huge, complex strategy games on PC knows, launch day can often mean, well, technical frustration.
Absolutely.
So we've gathered sources from the front lines, a really specific but critical Reddit thread that tracks one of the most disruptive launch day bugs, a screen flickering issue.
And our deep dive today is kind of a shortcut for you. We're not just going to summarize the bug. We are tracking the entire critical path here.
Right, the whole diagnostic journey.
The initial failed attempts, the key observations players made, and most importantly, how the community just rapidly came together to find a fix where the official channels were, lagging behind.
It's a really fascinating look at decentralized tech support in action. We're dissecting this journey of frustration that started with a user named refrigerator-old4214.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the specific symptoms. So you're staring at your brand new game. What are the visual signs that just scream, something is fundamentally wrong here?
Well, refrigerator-old4214 described two terrifying graphical issues that often go hand in hand in PC gaming chaos.
Okay.
First, there was this persistent, super disruptive screen flickering, almost like a strobe effect, that makes the game pretty much unplayable.
And the second one?
The second was the presence of what are known as black box artifacts.
Oh, wait, artifacts. For listeners who haven't had the pleasure of dealing with corrupted graphics before, what exactly are those black boxes telling us?
They're essentially placeholders. Think of them as the game just failing to load a texture or a rendering instruction for something.
But a piece of the menu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe a dialog box, background, or a UI element. And instead, the system just defaults and throws up a solid black square. These aren't minor hiccups.
No, that sounds serious.
They indicate a really serious failure in the data the game is feeding to your graphics card. It's a very strong clue that data is corrupted or is being misread somewhere along the line.
And what's so crucial here is that the original poster, they immediately pointed out this wasn't even a new problem for the series.
Exactly. They straight up referenced this flickering as a known issue that had also plagued the previous title, Anno 1800.
And that is a massive red flag, isn't it?
Huge. It suggests we aren't dealing with a new minor coding error, but maybe a persistent gremlin that's baked deep into the core game engine, what people sometimes call technical debt.
Which just raises the tension immediately. If this bug has persisted across games, then the standard fixes clearly aren't working for everyone.
Right. So before even posting on the forum, the user went through that standard, agonizing troubleshooting checklist.
And we should really appreciate the effort they went to.
Oh, absolutely. They were exhaustive. They tried everything a developer support page would ever recommend.
Let's quickly review the steps that didn't work, because that's essential diagnostic info.
Okay, so first, they fiddled with all the in-game graphic settings. That's always step one. No luck.
Of course.
Second, and this is important, they explicitly deactivated G-Sync.
Okay, so for our listeners, G-Sync is NVIDIA's tech that lets the monitor sync its refresh rate with the GPU, right, to prevent screen tearing.
That's the one.
So why would turning that off be a standard step for flickering?
Because flickering can often be caused by, or at least mistaken for, synchronization issues, especially if your frames are being dropped or rendered unevenly.
Ah, so the monitor and the GPU are kind of fighting over the next frame.
Exactly. You get stuttering, or in really bad cases, actual flickering.
But the main point here is that deactivating G-Sync was a failure. It didn't work.
A total failure point, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that immediately started pointing the community toward a problem that was happening before the final display sync. The issue wasn't the delivery of the image, it was the preparation of it.
They also covered the basics, I see. Latest drivers installed, and when that failed, even a clean reinstall of those drivers, still nothing.
Right. They did everything short of buying a new GPU. But they did make one other really critical observation.
What was that?
They found that manually capping the frame rate at 60 FPS only reduced the flickering. It didn't get rid of it.
Now that is the moment of clarity, isn't it?
It is.
If you control the flow of information, cap it at 60, and the symptom gets less severe but doesn't go away, it means the underlying instructions being sent are still faulty.
Precisely. It meant the fix wasn't going to be found in display settings or refresh rates. It had to be a deep dive into the specific files the game uses to render everything. They had basically narrowed it down to corrupted data.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because at this point, our user is staring at a strobing screen. They've exhausted all the official channels. What happens when they finally turn to the hive mind?
Well, the community is often, faster and more ingenious than internal QA, just because of the sheer number of different hardware setups out there. We saw 2 potential fixes pop up really quickly.
Let's start with the one that worked for some, but not for everyone. The Ubisoft overlay fix.
That came from a user named Mercury EQ. They suggested deactivating the Ubisoft overlay entirely in the settings.
That's a classic, right? Overlays cause so many problems.
Such a common solution, because overlays inject their own code into the game process, and that often creates conflicts, especially with things like DLSS or global illumination, which Mercury EQ mentioned they've been playing with.
And it worked for them, which just proves that these things are always configuration specific.
But the original poster confirmed it didn't solve their flickering issue. It just goes to show how localized these software conflicts can be. It's like a digital house of cards.
But then we get the MVP solution, the fix that actually worked for the majority of people, and it was immediately confirmed by multiple other users. This came from Voxillo.
Yes. And the fix was classically obscure, but also surprisingly simple. Manually deleting game-generated shader files.
Let's pause and give the full context here. What exactly are shaders, and why would deleting them fix flickering in black boxes?
So think of shaders as these highly specific, super optimized instruction manuals. The game engine writes them to tell your graphics card exactly how to draw every shadow, every reflection, every piece of light and texture. They're like complex mini programs.
Yeah, the term pre-compiled, what does that mean?
That just means the game, when you first run it, takes all those instruction sets and compiles them into an optimized shortcut folder just for your specific hardware and driver setup. It's meant to save loading time later on.
So if the game compiled a bad instruction manual the first time, maybe because of a driver hiccup or a tiny install error, the game just keeps referencing that same corrupted manual every single time you play.
You've got it. The game engine is lazy. It assumes that pre-compiled set is correct. By manually deleting that folder, you force the game to throw out the faulty manual and write a brand new, correct one the next time you launch.
And since the user had already updated their drivers, the second compilation was successful.
Exactly. And that explains both the flickering, faulty rendering instructions and the black box artifacts, which were just missing or corrupted texture instructions.
That is an incredible piece of insight, and for anyone listening who is dealing with this bug right now, we need to give them the exact instructions, the file path.
Absolutely. The MVP solution is to delete the files inside the subfolder called precompiled. You'll find it in the game's documents directory.
And that path is?
The path you need is C, user documents Anno 117 Pax Romana shaders. Go in there, delete those files, reboot the game, and just let it rebuild them from scratch.
And the community reaction was immediate. Refrigerator Old 4214 just posted, "You, sir, are the MVP. Thanks." But there was also this, pervasive sense of frustration tied to that gratitude.
Yeah, another user, Arius, summed up the collective fatigue perfectly. They said, so far, 2 out of 2 issues solved by community rather than the developers. Jeebus.
And you get that. When players have to resort to manually deleting core game files days after launch, it really says a lot about the initial quality assurance process.
Or lack thereof.
But hold on, I have to challenge that for a second. Is it possible that with literally thousands of unique hardware combinations, that this specific driver, GPU, and setting interaction is a legitimate edge case? That no QA could possibly catch it? Are we being too harsh?
That's a fair counterpoint. It's true, PC gaming is just inherently complex. However, when we connect this specific bug to the bigger picture of the launch, that edge case defense starts to break down a bit.
Because the flickering wasn't an isolated incident.
Not at all. The surrounding sources show a much broader pattern of instability for Anno 117.
Right. If you look at the catalog of related thread titles, the technical issues go way beyond just graphics.
Oh, they absolutely do. I mean, you see other graphics concerns, sure, like a thread titled 117 HDR seems to be borked, but the instability went right to the core infrastructure.
And for a strategy game that a lot of people play in single player, those infrastructure issues are a huge problem.
Exactly. You see reports like, game won't launch, pinpointed to Ubisoft server issue, and then the really scary one, did my game just uninstall itself?
Oh, wow.
That's not a glitch, that's an operational failure. And for people trying to play together, the threads report that Coop is unplayable right now.
So when you have server issues, installation failures, and fundamental graphical errors all happening at the same time, it paints a picture of a launch that was, well, rushed.
It creates this sense of fragility around the whole product, and that
Yeah.
instability is compounded by what seem to be, unforced errors in the design department. Which brings us to the subjective feedback.
The UI critique really stood out to me here. Players weren't just complaining about bugs, they were complaining about the actual interface.
Yes, there was this really specific, articulate desire expressed in one of the titles. The UI info screens absolutely peaked at 1800. I would be totally fine if they implemented it 1.1 to 117.
The UI is the lens through which you see the whole game. If you change a successful UI, especially the screens people rely on for crucial information, and you make it worse, that's an act of user friction that just undermines the whole experience.
It creates unnecessary friction. With a sequel, players expect new content, but they also desperately want the quality of life features they loved from the last game to be there or even be improved.
So changing a beloved UI is perceived as actively making the game worse.
And it makes the technical bugs feel even more grating.
This combination of technical instability and just baffling design choices, it leads to player burnout. That's why you see threads titled, "I'm completely done after 3.08 hours."
The bugs might have been solvable, but the fatigue was permanent. This feedback tells a consistent story. Players feel like they paid full price to be beta testers, not customers.
And the community has to step in and basically do the job of rapid response tech support.
Yep.
So, to summarize the core learning here, for that specific persistent screen flickering and artifact bug in Anno 117, the standard troubleshooting failed because the issue was rooted in corrupted, precompiled shader instructions.
And the reliable, community-sourced fix was manually navigating to the game's shader folder.
That's the path, one more time. See users user documents Anno 117 Pax Romana shaders. Go there, delete the files, and let the game rebuild its instruction manual correctly.
And this deep dive really shows how user forums rapidly become the most essential tool for, operational knowledge in the days right after a massive software release. Critical thinking is no longer optional. It's required just to make your game playable.
Which brings us back to that most provocative finding. If the screen flickering bug was explicitly noted by the community as a known issue from Anno 1800, the question becomes unavoidable.
So the question we want to leave you with is this. When a known issue from a previous game, a ghost from the engine's past, resurfaces in a major sequel like Anno 117, are we witnessing an inevitable byproduct of complex systems and unique edge cases?
Or are we seeing a repeated systemic failure in the launch validation process that suggests a fundamental engine debt has yet to be properly addressed?
That determination, I think, really defines the faith we can put in the next major launch.